With that and other things, let me welcome on KJ Carson, my friend from WEEI in Boston. Am I crazy, KJ, to think that the team led by the great late John Caney, the Jamaican bobsled team, Cool Runnings, is the best Olympic movie?
Man, we'll get a Jamaican bobsled team. We go to the Olympics. Yeah, cool. Because how many Olympic movies are there really? Maybe TV movies. Maybe you got a Mary Lou Retton story somewhere in there.
Probably.
Or maybe kind of like Escape from Austria or wherever Nadia Comaneci is from, maybe something like that. That might poke the heartstrings. But in terms of like who made a movie and stuck it in theaters, it really comes down to Miracle or Cool Runnings. And Cool Runnings is the comedy. Miracle is like a really intense movie.
It is.
People think that when they beat the Russians, the movie was over. No, they still had to beat Sweden to win it all. So it's like the anticlimactic thing happened, where with Cool Runnings, you knew those Jamaicans were not going to win in Sarajevo. You just knew it wasn't going to happen.
And no disrespect to the Mary Lou Retton story, by the way, if that's a real thing. Sounds like something on Lifetime, but I've never seen it. KJ Carson from WEEI in Boston joining us here on the Infinity Sports Network. Why are the Patriots expected to be so bad? Like, I know they suck, and I know they don't have a quarterback. I know they don't have a head coach. I know they got a lot of problems, but I was looking at their win total at 4.5. That seems a little low.
Well, that's because it's only a half over what they had last year. You had disarray last year. You have complete change now. I think there's a full understanding that you don't want to throw Drake May into the fire right away. Because while you believe he has the better physical talents than Mac Jones, and nobody questions that here in New England. Shout out to everybody who's listening on WEEI right now. They're probably like, I'm tripping right now. KJ was just on earlier today. But I think the idea is, hey, if we're going to be cautious with Drake May, that means that we're probably going to be cautious in terms of how aggressive the team is going to be in terms of garnishing wins. Now, if you're asking me, would I take over or under that 4.5? I think 5 may be the magic number, just because I think there are a couple of games in there where I think, for example, I think Chicago isn't as great as everybody perceives them to be because Caleb Williams still has to play in the NFL. At least Jacoby Brissett has played in the NFL. We're not talking about someone who's lights out or who's going to win you 10 games this year. But sometimes when you have a pro in there and you have a top 15 defense, which the Patriots have had even during these bad seasons, you've got a chance, right? If you tell me a game comes down to 14-10 and on the side of 10, maybe someone like a Caleb Williams, I would say, hey, there's a good chance that he will make a mistake against a veteran defense, game over. If you're telling me, hey, the Patriots are going to put 28 up on the board this year in most of the games, I would say that's not going to happen.
KJ, looking up and down that division, I still think Buffalo's the best team, even though Miami paid everybody. What do you think about the Jets? Because you could ask 10 different football fans and get 10 different opinions. What's your thought on the New York Jets this season?
If Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, I can't see any. I could see a scenario where they end up in the AFC title game.
What?
I could see it. I could see, because if you've got Aaron Rodgers, they address some of that offensive line. You've got weapons on the outside. You've got 2 exceptional running backs. You have a solid defense, and let's just call it what it is. You've kind of taken by proxy over the head coaching job through Hackett. You know what I mean? Like, we just know we know that's the tag team, right? It's like Robert Salah is just like, just stand there and watch, take care of the defense. It's going to be maddening, but I think I can see a scenario where the Jets could potentially end up in an AFC championship game if Aaron Rodgers is able to stay healthy through the years, just because he is that pro. He is just that good when healthy. And he has weapons almost better than what he was asking for. Like, if you just said, what is Aaron Rodgers? Does Aaron Rodgers have better offensive weapons now, or did he have them in his last year in Green Bay? And I would say he has better now because he was asking for more than Devontae Adams. He was like begging for them to keep him, and still they were able to go pretty far. So if you could keep an Aaron Rodgers healthy and quiet, that's the other part of it as well. Let's see where flu season goes and see if Aaron Rodgers has something to say about that. I could see a scenario where it could come down to them versus the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. I really could see it.
Aaron Rodgers hated those wide receivers his last year in Green Bay. Remember that? Like, especially at the beginning of the year, those were not his guys.
I think he just pretty much hated anything that was authority in Green Bay.
It did.
I don't even know how he probably felt about the new sandwich maker, probably at the local sub shop after. Well, like, they're changing here too. Oh gosh, what is this?
Yeah. Screw that guy too. KJ Carson joining us here from WEEI in Boston on the Infinity Sports Network. The gambling man that you are, if I gave you $3 million and I said you can bet it on Bill Belichick will one day be an NFL head coach again or he's done, where would you put that money?
He's done. And I say this jokingly because, once you take a 22, 23-year-old girlfriend and you're 70, you were spending time with me. Now you're into that silly football again. And so if you're 70, you're wondering, what are your chances of getting like a really fine 23, 24-year-old again? Probably very slim to none. Is it really worth going after Don Shula's record at this point if you're coaching? So I think Belichick probably will like television, will probably get promoted in television, and he was genius not to take the job from Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. You want to talk about how does a bear clean himself off after he's done in the woods? He grabs the rabbit. Belichick could have been the next Steve Wilkes in San Francisco, so he's smart not to take that job. I think he's just going to like TV, like having this PYT on his arm from Michael Jackson fans who knows he's got a little pretty young thing, and just enjoy himself. Right? He's 70. This dude could pull off a Tony Randall, a.k.a. Robert De Niro. And what would be the storyline if Belichick just became a father at 80? You can't do that necessarily with a 65-year-old girlfriend. But with the 24-year-old, she might love Bill just enough, and that might be Bill's real ring that he gets if he bags a 24-year-old and gets her to marry him. I mean, it's not just for the money. I mean, because he's not at work. So if you gave me that millions of dollars, I would bet that Belichick does not come back as a head coach.
I just wonder how the conversation went the first time she met the dad. Was it like, hey, this is my 70-year-old boyfriend who's 40-something years older than me, or, hey, this is Bill Belichick, the greatest football coach of all time with a fistful of Super Bowl rings. Either way, the dad must have been like, this is weird. What do you think about the Red Sox?
Or maybe the dad is just happy that she's not dating a guy who listens to rap music anymore. You just don't know.
Touche. Yeah, I don't know.
Just you know what? If he's 70 and I can just hear Grateful Dead and Eagles music coming in my house, fine. I just don't want to hear that rap stuff. So you never know.
Good guy. Yeah, I'm with you. If he's a good guy for my daughter, then I'm all with it. What do you think about the Red Sox? Because I'm looking at their odds, and obviously long shot to win the division. I do think they're going to end up creeping in the back door of the playoffs. If they get there, are they dangerous?
I think the problem that I want to see them get there, I think they had a run, but the thing that jumps out at me is they are 9 games under 500 against teams over 500. So really anybody ahead of them are teams that are 500. The only other team that's kind of in that area of not really good against teams over 500 are the Royals, but the Royals have a division full. I mean, look, I would put up my kids' T-ball team up against the Chicago White Sox and bet that those little guys might beat those little bastards. Because, I mean, Chicago White Sox is not playing for any – if they lost again today, it's 20 in a row. So if you've got Chicago in your division, and while Cleveland is kind of a beast, it'd be interesting if Kansas City can get past a hot – can keep off a hot Minnesota team, pull Cleveland a bit, and get as many games in against Chicago, where with the Red Sox – they tend to always kind of trip and fumble the ball a bit with Tampa. You've got Toronto, but you've got the Yankees and you got the Orioles in front of you. And then what's going out in the West with Seattle and with Houston, that's going to really – I think it's going to be tough for them to get that third wild card spot. They're 2.5 back now. I just think where we've never really said this, you may see 3 teams from the AL Central go, when usually it's kind of like, hey, whoever wins the AL Central gets the wild card game. So I think that changes this year. It'll be tough for the Red Sox to get in, I think.
Watch out for those Royals. We're talking with KJ Carson from WEEI in Boston here on the Infinity Sports Network. Got to talk some hoops with you, KJ. The Celtics coming off of a championship. How many do you think they end up winning? Let's say their prime with this team lasts another 4 or 5 years. Ultimately, how many rings do you think this group gets?
Over a 5-year span, they could win another 2. And I guess the question really will come down is to, after maybe 10, 12 years of Tatum and Brown in the league, Tatum is always going to be in the league 1 year less than Jaylen Brown, was 3 championships enough for all those times they went to the playoffs? Now, I would say Point to me in the NBA, a bunch of guys who have 3 championships. But it's going to be very hard, especially in the way money is in the NBA, and with this new term for the cap. It's what is it called? The apron, getting a second apron. I'm thinking, my wife when we're cooking dinner, like she's hoping I pick up the second apron. And when I hear second apron, I think like, get in here and help me in the kitchen do something. But I just think there's just too much money on the books for the Celtics to be able to keep the same players in place. I think you'll always make an opportunity to make Brown and Tatum your centerpiece, but then you're going to have to start looking at lower paid pieces down the road. And I think that's also part of the reason why the team is for sale. It's kind of like, hey, if someone wants to come in and pay this luxury apron, then come right on in, owner of the Manchester City soccer football team. Come on in, international investment, if you want to do this and make the Celtics that team. They can do that. It's just a matter of who's going to do that.
KJ, we just did a whole segment, brother, and you didn't give me any mob movie references. What's the best mob movie of all time?
Oh, that's not fair. Because there's so many good ones.
What's the best?
If there's one, if I had to say the best mob movie of all time,
who's the GOAT?
Is Godfather 2. And it's only because it takes you back to when Robert De Niro was a young Vito Corleone. So you get to see how the crew was put together with Clemenza, and then you come back and they're doing the whole thing in Nevada, and it's kind of explaining how the gaming in Vegas is built, and that's where Fredo, you disappointed me with the kiss in Cuba, and and Johnny Ola, and I've been here before with Mo Green, like really, my brother. So Godfather 2 has so many layers to it that I think it's the best mob movie. Goodfellas, in a modern sense, yes, but in terms of a classic mob movie, I don't think you could go wrong with Godfather 2. Why do you always think I have these mob movies? I've never been in it.
I actually think you got that one right. I thought you were going to go Goodfellas 1 and Godfather 2 too, but you actually got that one right. KJ,
no, Godfather 2 for sure. Yeah,
great stuff, my guy. As always, appreciate your time.
You got it, man.